Gradient Design Pillar next to Station Gladiator. More Pillar Loves tabletop games. Today with Britannia, the ancient and medieval invasions of Britain. This is the Fantasy Flight version. Apparently, there's been an older version of the game back in. Let's see here. At least 2 decades before. Yeah. I'll find the information later. But anyway, in this game you'll play as a collection of nations across various points in the history. So, in a 4-player game, one player will have all the yellow ones, another will have all the red, another is blue, and green the last one. And then over the course of the game, you will move your units, start battles, and try to achieve your objectives for each of your nations. For example, the Romans are trying to occupy certain locations. The occupy scoring is as long as you've occupied that area at least once during that time frame, then you'll get the points. They are trying to push north. They want to reach up here for the big points. And then there's holding the locations. Ultimately, they want to hold Cheshire, York, and Essex for the big points. But there are other areas that are worth not as much, but are still worth getting anyway. Trying to occupy areas that you don't need. You don't want to do counterintuitive stuff for your nation, really. You want to, fulfill what they're trying to, where they are historically. There's also getting points for defeating enemy leaders. So eventually, Boudica shows up, and the Romans will have to on the next round defeat her before she disappears. Because when it gets to a nation's turn, any leaders they had from a previous turn go away. So you kind of have to act fast on that. And then nations will have other extra stuff as well. There'll be points over the course of the game where new nations come in as old ones are collapsing because they're being overrun by the others that are trying to achieve their objectives. There's stuff like boat movement and raiding. There's in the later stages, there's the Bretwalda and the King, which gets points, and there's the big thing is battles. So in order to actually get rid of your opponent's stuff, you have to send in enough to fight them. If you send in like more than double, you can overrun, which lets you just like go on a crazy combat run. Although you are limited to your movement of 3. So the best I can probably get up to is about here. Yeah. I have to stop for difficult terrain unless let's have a leader. In general, moving, you can move up to 2 areas. You have to stop for difficult. Cavalry and Romans can go 3, but they also have to stop for difficult. Leaders can go 3 and move through it. No problems. Alright, but let's cover the actual battles. You'll get a die for every token you have. Normal circumstances, you need a 5-up. If you are attacking as Romans or as cavalry, then you need a 4+. If you are being attacked as Romans or as cavalry, or if you are defending in difficult terrain, then no matter what, they need a 6 to hurt you. So let's say this battle's happening. So there's a 6. So I'll definitely kill that person. And he'll does not roll high enough to deal with the Romans. If you kill a unit and you have a scoring special that lets you get points for killing certain armies and all that, you'll get those points immediately. Yeah. So eventually the game will hit round 16 for the final king vote, and there are 4 potential candidates for king. If only one of them survives, then they get it automatically. It's like 10 points, I believe. Yeah. But yeah, the points you get, you don't have to keep them specifically on your nation. You can you count them all together anyway, and they're kept track of these tokens. But at some point, you may have to resort to some paper and pencil or other token alternatives. Other things that can happen with the game are the population track, where every normal area you have is worth 2, every difficult area is worth 1. And every 6 points you build up gets you a new unit. You're limited to having units at the end of your turn equal to double the areas you have, and the rest go away. And yeah, it's not a whole lot to it. I know there's some complicated stuff with like raiding or forts or other stuff, but it's really not too hard of a game. It's just a long game. It's gonna go well. But on the flip side, it's 16 rounds, but not every nation's going to be active over the course of the 16 rounds. Probably be anywhere from like 4 to 6, at a time, and operating them is pretty straightforward. Eventually, like, the Romans will get forts, and eventually get replaced with the Romano-British. And yeah. Yeah, the actual phases are population increase, movement, battles, retreats, raider withdrawal, and overpopulation. And yeah, there's leaders. There's submission, Roman rule. There's a lot of little stuff to keep in mind as you're playing. Let's see here. There's also some two-player scenarios, because sometimes you just don't have enough people to make it worth it. Yeah, you can play with 3 or 5, but 4 is really like the best number for this. The scenarios are like the Vikings versus the inhabitants of Britain, or Germanic invaders versus inhabitants of Britain, or the early invaders. They're not exactly balanced, but that's something to play with. There's a shorter 3-player variant as well. And the game starts around 6 and ends at around 13. And then there's like the little... And most helpfully, there's like the chronology and some discussion about the history itself. But it's an interesting game, you know. Why do I like it? It's, you know, it's history in motion, you know. There's not a whole lot of games that are like that. I mean, history of the world is kind of like that. Ooh, excuse me. But it was a little bit differently. Almost, you know. There's also, I believe I've talked about this before, a Small World, which also features the rising empire, declining empire effect. But this one actually, actually goes through real history instead of being some fantasy thing. Well, I still need to look up and see which of the games came first, History of the World or Britannia, because I look at both games and there's this. I don't know if I'm not going to say one like copied the other or whatever, but they both feel, like they're both in this, rising empire, declining empire feeling. It's kind of hard to ignore, but it's worth checking out if you can find a copy. This was like last released in, what was it, 2000? Let's see. It was in the box. 2008. Yeah, it's been a while. But I like the game. I definitely want to. I decided to hold on to this copy after all instead of trying to sell it. Because I would like to run it on the kind of day where I have the time to really go through it with people and play it. Yeah. I wish I could go through an entire playthrough, make a video out of that, but that would take hours. But yeah, for a long game, it's enjoyable. I think. Oh yeah, I swapped out the dice because 5 wooden dice is not enough, and wooden dice in general just annoy the crap out of me. But I thought they go well with the dice, or go well with the game since water and land for the pips. Yeah. Britannia, if you can find a copy, check it out, play it, enjoy it. This has been Pillar Nexus. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.